For most people, GMC feels like it has always been there. A familiar red badge, big trucks, quiet strength. Something dependable parked at the edge of a driveway or idling at a work site. But what many don't realize is that GMC didn't begin as a brand chasing prestige or comfort. It began as a question. A question asked at the very start of the 20th century, when America was still moving at the pace of horses. What happens when muscle is replaced by machinery? And what kind of machine does a working nation really need? Long before General Motors became an empire, before showrooms and marketing slogans, two brothers were experimenting with an idea that seemed unnecessary to some and revolutionary to others. Max and Morris Grabowski were not trying to build luxury, they were trying to solve a problem. Goods needed to move farther. Farms needed supplies. Cities were growing faster than animals could keep up with. Strength had to become mechanical. Their early trucks were crude by modern standards. Wooden wheels, loud engines, no comfort to speak of, but they worked, and that mattered more than anything else. These machines weren't designed to impress neighbors. They were designed to survive long days, bad roads, and unforgiving use. Slowly, almost quietly, the idea of a motorized truck stopped being an experiment and started becoming a necessity. By the time their operation evolved into Rapid Motor Vehicle Company, something important had already happened. The truck had proven itself, not in advertisements, but in mud, hills, and broken roads. One Rapid truck even climbed Pikes Peak, a place many believed machines had no business reaching. That single climb said more than any brochure ever could. When William Durant began assembling what would become General Motors, he wasn't just buying companies, he was buying proof, and Rapid had proof written into steel and grease. When Rapid and Reliance were brought together under GM, the foundation of GMC was formed, not as a luxury brand, not as a fashion statement, but as the working arm of a growing industrial nation. The name GMC appeared publicly in 1912, and almost immediately, the brand was tested, not by customers, but by geography. In 1916, a GMC truck crossed the United States from Seattle to New York. No highways, no service stations as we know them today. Just dirt, mud, breakdowns, and persistence. When that truck finally reached the East Coast, it didn't just arrive. It proved that trucks could connect a country. Then, history shifted violently. World War I didn't ask whether trucks were ready. It demanded that they be. GMC became essential almost overnight. Ambulances, transport vehicles, supply trucks. The brand's production turned almost entirely toward the war effort. These vehicles weren't symbols, they were lifelines. And when the war ended, GMC carried something back with it that no marketing campaign could buy: trust. That trust followed GMC across oceans. When disaster struck Japan in the early 1920s, GMC trucks were among the machines used to rebuild. In moments where infrastructure collapsed, reliability mattered more than elegance. GMC had already learned that lesson. As America moved into the 1920s, the role of trucks began to change. Survival was no longer the only goal. Speed, efficiency, and scale mattered now. GMC responded not with slogans, but with demonstrations. Record-setting cross-country runs, faster deliveries, new partnerships that linked trucks to buses, cities, and mass transportation. The truck was no longer just for farms and factories. It was becoming part of daily American life. Then came the Great Depression. And once again, machines were judged harshly. Anything wasteful disappeared. Anything essential survived. GMC adapted by making trucks that didn't just move goods, but changed how goods were preserved. Refrigerated transport reshaped food distribution. Families ate differently because trucks could travel farther without spoilage. Even in economic collapse, the truck quietly reshaped society. In the late 1930s, GMC introduced something that blurred a line many people didn't realize existed: the Suburban Carryall. It didn't fit neatly into any category. It looked like a truck, but it carried people. It worked during the week and served families on weekends. Enclosed steel bodies protected passengers from weather. Interiors were simple, but thoughtful. This wasn't luxury, it was versatility. And that concept would echo for decades. When World War II arrived, GMC once again turned fully toward necessity. Hundreds of thousands of military trucks rolled out of factories, not elegant, not comfortable, but unstoppable. These vehicles moved supplies across Europe and the Pacific, forming the logistical backbone of the Allied effort. And then there was the DUKW, an amphibious machine that looked strange, almost unreal. Part truck, part boat, built with urgency. Designed to do something no normal vehicle could do, drive straight from ship to shore. Adjustable tire pressure, sealed drivetrains. Thousands were built, and they worked, quietly, effectively, without ceremony. That was GMC at its most honest. After the war, America softened. Design became smoother, chrome appeared, comfort slowly entered the conversation, and GMC began to change with the country, not abandoning work, but redefining it. By the 1960s, the pickup truck was no longer just a tool, it was personal. The Sierra emerged as a truck that could work hard and still feel like it belonged to its owner, not a company fleet. V8 engines delivered torque without strain. Interiors became more humane. This was still a machine, but one meant to be lived with. GMC experimented, sometimes cautiously, sometimes boldly. Vehicles like the Sprint and later, the Caballero challenged the idea of what a truck could be. Not everything was about payload anymore. Image mattered. Identity mattered. And GMC was learning how to speak to buyers who wanted strength without sacrifice. Standardization followed. Shared platforms. Shared components. Efficiency. These decisions weren't glamorous, but they were smart. They allowed GMC to exist slightly above Chevrolet without drifting into Cadillac territory. That balance would define the brand. As SUVs rose, GMC was ready. Jimmy became Yukon. Sierra expanded. Suburban grew larger, quieter, more refined. And then something interesting happened. Trucks became luxury. Denali wasn't created to chase trends. It was created to reward experience, leather, silence, power delivered without drama. These vehicles weren't meant to prove anything. They were meant to feel earned. GMC wasn't selling aspiration. It was selling arrival. The financial crisis of 2009 forced hard decisions. Commercial lines disappeared. Medium-duty trucks faded quietly away. GMC narrowed its focus. Trucks and SUVs only. No distractions. No confusion. As the industry began to shift toward electrification, GMC didn't rush forward blindly. Instead, it translated its old values into new forms. Torque still mattered. Strength still mattered. Control still mattered. The return of the Hummer as an electric vehicle wasn't irony. It was philosophy. Instant power. Extreme capability. Different technology. Same attitude. Today, GMC sits in a strange but deliberate position. It doesn't chase minimalism. It doesn't apologize for size or strength. It exists between past and future, between steel memory and electric promise. If you've ever heard a GMC engine in the early morning, if you've ever associated a truck with freedom, not fashion, if you understand why quiet strength means more than loud performance, then this story is just history. It's part of who you are, and it deserves to be remembered.